I am a bit of a wanderer, which is why I've got this mic. I am not going to start dancing, and I am not going to start singing, I promise. Yeah, you would not want me to do that. The dancing, later. The singing, never. Okay, so thank you for the introduction. I'm sure that many of you are aware of what I do with regard to the Berry Journal. I was actually involved with this industry before Berries Australia came along. So I produced a couple of these before we moved into the Berries Australia space. I was also the communications manager for 4 years for the passion fruit industry, and that's because I just didn't duck fast enough when I became a passion fruit farmer. So my husband and I no longer farm. We actually sold our farm in 2023. But this is my background. So I have done a lot of food marketing, and then there's a really random one in there with Cement Australia, but you know, you get that. But essentially, I've done a lot of my career has been spent on food and beverage marketing in particular. I spent 3 years at One Harvest, who were the previous license owner and marketer for the Calypso mango. So I've got a little bit of experience in fresh produce as well from that. So I suppose the first thing to cover is why did we actually join forces? Like, why did we take the leap and go into a berry basket marketing approach? So essentially, there's a number of reasons. Promoting all of the berries together, they share quite common health benefits. I mean, some of the individual berries have got some very specific ones, but you get that health halo effect. We know from the experience overseas that when you promote the whole of the berry basket together, it lifts sales across the category. It doesn't steal share from one berry to another without actually expanding the entire category. We also know that when you market them as a mix, you get some awareness spin-off for some of the berries that are less well known, like raspberries and blackberries, from catching people's attention with something they're very familiar with, like strawberries. It gives us the ability to have essentially a communication going all year, even though not every berry crop is available in every month in every state. It allows us to combine those ingredients together and give people recipe inspiration, because you may just be a strawberry farmer, but newsflash, people don't just eat strawberries in a single usage occasion. And then from an efficiency point of view, let's face it, we don't have the biggest budgets on the planet. We certainly don't have the scale of budgets that Luke was talking about. When I worked for Coca-Cola and Schweppes, I was the marketing manager for the education channel. I'm ashamed to say that it was my job to flog Coke to 12 to 18 to 21-year-olds in the UK, so I'm probably responsible for a little bit of the tooth decay. And I had a £5 million budget, and that was back in 1995, just for that channel. So, there are eye-watering sums of money being invested around the world. So from a governance point of view, we joined forces for those reasons. Where did the money come from? From the Strawberry Fund, from the leftover marketing levy in the Raspberry and Blackberry Fund, and from the voluntary levy in the Australian Blueberry Growers Association. What we've also had is a really strong governance framework for this campaign, so it's not been created by me and in isolation. We have a marketing subcommittee that meets on a very frequent basis and that has driven and overseen all of the stages of this program, and I just want to thank the people in the room who are on that committee for your time that you've committed to that. So, what do we want to do? Essentially, we wanted to encourage more people to buy multiple berry types and to buy those berries on more shopping occasions. So we already have pretty high household penetration at a total category level for berries. 88% of Australian households, on average, each year buy at least one berry on at least one occasion. So this is more about getting multiple berry types purchased on those occasions, and also hoping, as I said before, to lift the household penetration of some of the less known berries like raspberries and blackberries by leveraging off the really popular and very well-known one, i.e. strawberries. Okay, so what did we do? What was our strategies? So echoing what Luke was just talking about, a very large proportion of what we were trying to do was to drive that awareness and to drive that desirability. So the front end of the funnel, if you like, essentially. Because what then happens at the back end, at that point of purchase, is it's predominantly controlled by the major retailers. The branding is your responsibility as the growers who produce the berries and put it into the packaging. And we had no ability to actually influence really that kind of stuff, okay? So we invested 60% of our funds into awareness-driving activities and about 40% into prompting purchase. Okay, so what did we do? This was the chart that we've shared in the Australian Berry Journal. So basically, we created a TV commercial. That was shown on channels like 9 Now, 7 Plus, 10 Play, SBS On Demand. If you were a BVOD, Broadcast Video On Demand, catch-up TV watcher, hopefully you would have seen it. We did outdoor digital advertising at the point of purchase. We invested a lot into social media because it is a very cost-effective mechanism for reaching consumers with messaging. We dabbled with an influencer marketing campaign, and we also, in the early stages of the campaign, had some direct advertising placement into the Coles and Woolworths online portals. Okay, when did we do it? So this was a challenge. We had 12 months of the year. We had 4 crops. We've got a pretty large nation. We needed to make some prioritization. So this chart was compiled from insights that were provided to us from within the industry, and the activity was based on this information. So we scheduled the peak of our stuff in line with where the peaks of supply were, okay? We didn't have enough money to be on air and on all of these channels 12 months of the year across all 4 of the crops, so we had to prioritize. Okay, what was the creative messaging? So we understood that for berries, we needed to talk to that system 1 thinking. We needed to tap into the emotion that there is surrounding berries. And so what we do is we created a TV commercial that really was all about this idea of berries are made for sharing. So if you think about it, when you have an apple or a peach or a pear, it's a single piece of fruit, and typically you would just eat that yourself. So it's a one item, one person, one serve type of deal. With berries, a serving is typically multiple berries, which actually means that they're ideal for sharing. So we created an emotional linkage that tried to bring out that shareability in each of the individual crops.
Sharing
so if
is
you haven't
caring.
seen it,
One
this is
for
the
me,
end result.
1 for you.
Sweet!
2 for me. 1 for you.
Crunchy!
3 for me. 1 for you.
Juicy!
4 for me. And 1 last one for you.
Luscious!
The rest is all for me. Fresh Australian berries. Healthy, delicious, and made for sharing.
Okay, so there's an old adage that says familiarity breeds favourability, and that's what Luke was talking about previously. So we chose a TV commercial, even though you've got a fair amount of money that goes into the actual production cost of making it. We chose that because it is a really key way for us to be able to connect that emotional messaging in a, not a direct way, but in a way that people can absorb with consumers en masse. And for us, it was very much about cost effectiveness. We also used digital billboards outside of the major grocery outlets and in large transit and shopping centre areas, with a mixture of both a static execution of that TVC and a 7-second motion version as well. So the purpose of that out-of-home advertising is really to remind people on their path to the checkout, oh yeah, berries. Oh yeah, I need some berries. Oh, they're in season. Right, I'll go and have a look at the berry fridge. So we saw it as our job to get them into the shop with berries in a positive place in their mind, and to go to the part of the store where the berries were available on display and then consider making a purchase. We use the GOAT influencer marketing service. I don't know why it's called GOAT, by the way. And this is basically a branded marketing service that connects influencers who've got lots of followers with brands who have specific objectives. The purpose was really to try and create that authentic, impactful campaigns and have an element of the dentist giving us a, what's the word that you used? Giving us an endorsement to support berries through a slightly different channel. We also, to try and get as close to the point of sale as possible with online purchasing in the early part of the campaign, we worked, as I said, with those 2 leading grocery retailers. We did actually redirect the funds from that in our second and third bursts into other areas because we just felt our dollars could go further by getting our core messaging in front of more eyeballs. So the campaign creative idea was also rolled across each of the individual crops. So what that enabled us to do is, from that supply chart you saw, essentially we have different crops in different peaks of supply at different times. So this enabled us to do upweights specifically behind each individual crop when there was plentiful supply, at the same time as keeping that kind of core theming of the overall berry basket approach. We also ensured that there was a very fair split of the funds that were invested individually behind each crop, because we're obviously incredibly conscious that this money belongs to you as growers and it needs to be fairly allocated. So there was a lot of effort that went into that. So Hort Innovation have done some really great research and some other projects that we have pulled outputs from in this project. One of the things that we leveraged was the outputs from this health messaging campaign. So you're going to hear from one of the health professionals in a moment. But essentially, the outputs that came from that campaign were part of the creative that was put into our social media. So, what did the campaign achieve? I mean, I think that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? At its most basic level, the point of the campaign, as I said, was to connect buyers with the availability of berries, create the awareness, create the interest, stimulate the desire. Marketing activities, what they're really about is informing consumers about what's available, why they need it, and how it can improve their lives. Ultimately, the goal is to encourage them to make those purchases, as Luke was saying. Effective marketing obviously strives to make sure that the right message is received by the right people at the right time, and it's all about building those long-term purchasing behavior patterns that happen subconsciously. We don't want people to have to think about this, we want it just to happen. Obviously, the purpose for us long-term is to make sure that berries is one of those must-buy items that doesn't even need to make it on the shopping list. It's just the assumed purchase. I'm doing the weekly shop, not that many people do a weekly shop anymore, but I'm stocking up, therefore these are the things I need, and we want berries to be on there without people even having to think about it. The critical thing, and I want to kind of refer back to what Mike Knowles said in his talk yesterday, is that once someone gets to the fridge and they're positive about berries and they have, they're considering a purchase, our job is done from the category marketing perspective, and your job as growers is what takes over. Because at that point, there is a whole host of factors that are going to come into play as to people deciding what they pick up, how much they pick up, and whether they come back again next week and pick it up again. So price, we all know how much control we've got over that. Quality perception is really important. Brand over time, if you are able to consistently deliver a really good experience to consumers when they buy and consume your product, your brand becomes more and more important as people's way of going, they've been great, I'm not going to buy any of this other stuff, I'm only going to buy this particular brand. Pack size, etc. We know that people pick up a punnet and they turn it over because they want to have a bit of a look. The reason that they do that is that they don't trust that they can just grab and go. They've had some bad experiences. They need to inspect the fruit themselves. So as an industry, we need to work very hard on all of those things, from varieties to making sure that field heat is taken out of fruit as quickly as possible, all the things that manage shelf life and deliver the best possible product to a consumer. When they buy it, they take it home, they eat it. We need to work really hard on that. And it is challenging. They're delicate products, but consistency of the taste experience is what is going to get people coming back, A, to the category, but B, from a brand perspective, back to your brand specifically. So it's really critical. Okay, so I've got this slide up here because one of the questions that I have been asked quite a lot in this campaign is, well, how do we know it's working? Show me the sales increases. And I'm going to stand here right now and say to you, I cannot. I cannot. If I was this lady in this advert, she's obviously used Pantene, and I was selling something direct on the TV, and I knew exactly when my ad had been aired, and I knew exactly how many sales came into my phone room as a result of that ad being aired, I could give you a direct ROI on the amount of money that had been invested in marketing, whatever it is that this chick's selling. We're not in that situation, okay? We are basically an industry where I wasn't even responsible for marketing a single brand. We've got a category-wide, hundreds of brands, diverse sales channels, many of those sales channels not even reporting any kind of reviewable sales data. That makes it impossible for us to say, because we did this, it generated that. And there are so many things that are fully outside of our control from a Berries Australia perspective, but even you as a brand owner. So what we've had to do is we've had to look at the measures that give us a longitudinal track of consumer behavior and look at those metrics, and are those metrics moving in the right direction? Now, I can't stand here and say to you, hand on heart, that the $750,000, $250,000 that was invested by you in marketing is solely directly responsible for those changes in the numbers that I'm about to show you. However, those numbers have all gone in the right direction, so I'm going to claim it anyway. So, thanks to another Hort Innovation Levy-funded project, and one that I think they should be really congratulated for doing, we have category-wide horticulture longitudinal tracking data that is, if not 100% reliable, it is certainly the most reliable thing that is available in Australia without commissioning it yourself and doing it yourself. And we certainly couldn't afford that. So through Nelson IQ, we've got the home scan service. Anybody can access this data. It's on harvesterhome.net.au. Hort Innovation have also got a new portal called Hort IQ that is a members-only private access kind of thing, but anyone who is a levy payer or a grower can get access to that. You just need to contact Hort Innovation. So there's actually a lot of insights that are available to help you both at a category level, but also to manage things within your business. So the great news, people have bought more volume of berries, and they have put berries into their trolley more often in the last 12 months. So the 12 months to September 2024, and the reason that I have to use the September 2024 data is our next data drop is not till March. So it's twice a year, March and September for the berry category. But you can see that they have spent more, although I'm not so concerned about the money side of things, because supply and demand changes and the price changes mean that what's more important to us is the fact that they've bought more in kilos, because price is so impacted by short supply and the glut word. So they've bought 600 grams more on average across the category of berries, and that just happens to equate to $12.30 based on last year's pricing to this year's pricing. This is the other key piece of information. There was on average 21 purchase occasions per year. That's gone up to 22.2. So it's these two measures, essentially, the volume purchased and the purchase occasions, that are those critical longitudinal markers that we need to continue to look at. All berry crops saw an increase in both the amount spent and the kilo purchased. So this is a total category level, but it was a same trend for every single one. Okay, where do we go from here? What happens next? The overwhelming consensus is that it is a good idea to continue with the joint approach. The challenge is the Berries Australia board has to decide, well, how the hell do we do this? And then somebody has to work out, how the hell do we pay for it? Okay? So in the meantime, if you are keen to get involved in this space, it would be wonderful to have more grower representation on the marketing subcommittee. I know that when I hear the word subcommittee, my eyes glaze over. I think, I don't have time for that. I just want to reassure you that the time commitment is not much. It's an hour, maybe an hour, once every couple of months. But it gets you on the inside of the tent. It enables you to have an influence on what happens, and it also gives you access to a whole lot of intel that maybe you might not get otherwise. So Nathan Baronio, who's here, give us a wave, Nathan, is the subcommittee chair. And so basically, anybody who's interested, please contact him. One last thing. Not everybody knows how a TV commercial gets made. So as if I wasn't busy enough, whilst we were filming this, I did a behind the scenes. So this is a great thing to show at your team briefings or something like that, because it's actually really interesting the way that a TV commercial gets made. So if you want to scan that QR code, that takes you to our YouTube channel, I think, and it's 5 minutes. It's a little slideshow and video, but it just gives people the opportunity to understand, how does this stuff happen? And that's it for me. Thank you very much.